Hi, class. I'm so sorry I'm not there today, but I think you will be completely fine without me. We're doing a lot of the same things as last night, and most of you said it was starting to come back by the end of the period. So today we're going to be specifically looking at parallel lines. So one thing I hope you remember about parallel lines is that they have the same slope, okay? So just a quick review from yesterday. Remember, we had two forms of lines, slope-intercept form and point-slope form. You're going to be using both of those tonight, just like you did yesterday, okay? The thing you may need to remember is the equation of a vertical line and the equation of a horizontal line. Remember my stupid YMCA lazy Y, so Y's are always the ones that are horizontal. They have a slope of 0. And anytime you have a vertical line, it has an undefined slope. So there isn't a slope. Okay. So that may come in handy because those can throw you off a little bit when we start talking about parallel lines. So the first thing I just want to remind you is of just a couple of the things you need to remember. Okay. If lines are not vertical and they're parallel, your slopes have to be equal. One can't be negative, one can't be positive. They have to be the exact same fraction if the slopes are a fraction. Okay. If slopes are two distinct non-vertical lines are equal, then we can say they're parallel. So notice that if-then statement again. If you see those slopes that are equal, then you can say things are parallel. So a lot of if-then. Vertical lines can be parallel as well, but that means you're just going to have two undefined slopes. You can also have two horizontal lines that are parallel. Your slope will just be 0 for both of those. So those can be easy to miss. Okay. So let's just jump in and try one. I think that's the easiest way to do this. Okay. So review from last night. Let's just kind of go through writing the equation of a line with a slope-intercept. Sorry, not a slope-intercept, with an intercept of 3 and an intercept of -5. Okay. So this may look familiar. So let's just see if you can do it again. So we want to write the equation using those 2 points. So I take my x coordinate that goes in the x spot. You put a 0 in the other spot. I have a 0 then, and then I put a -5. Okay, so we did this yesterday. So then we can find the slope of those 2 points. And once we have the slope, then we can put it back into the equation. So remember, point slope form looks a little bit wonky. A lot of you feel like it's not finished, but it really is. So yesterday we saw this problem, and we had y minus 0 equals 5/3. And then in parentheses, we had the x minus 3. And I said, sometimes you will see it written with the y equals 5/3 times the x minus 3. That is still an acceptable point slope form. Okay. So I just reviewed this one again since I'm not here. Just kind of want to go over something we've seen. But keep in mind when you do this that I said it's totally okay to write your answer this way to keep something in point slope form. We don't want to do any distribution. Any distribution starts making it into slope intercept. Okay, so that was just a review of how to do the equation of a line. Today, I'm going to take this exact same problem and we're going to go a step farther with it. So I'm going to use this form of the equation. Okay, so I'm going to pop it over on the next slide here. And so I still got this up in the corner. This is the same equation from the last slide. Okay. So this is what we did yesterday, only I want you to find the equation of the line that is parallel to the equation that we just wrote. And this new equation is going to go through point 1, 2. So if you remember, to write the equation of a line, you have to have a point and you have to have a slope. Okay? So how you're going to use the equation that you've already gotten is use to just find the slope. Okay? If I need this line I already have and a new line to be parallel, they have to share a slope. That's the only thing they have to share. So on your paper, what you're going to write is the slope. M equals 5/3. Okay, so tell me that you're using that slope in your new equation. So make sure you write that on all your homework, what slope you're going to be using. Now I take the slope that I've already used and take the new point, and I'm going to write my equation. I want my answer in slope-intercept form, but since I have a point and a slope and not an intercept, I'm going to need to start in point-slope form. Okay, so remember just from yesterday, this may be a little wonky because I'm writing on the screen and I'm not very good at that, as you know, is y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. That's the form you're going to be entering that into, okay? So I'm going to just plot this up on the screen. Okay. So remember, it's always those minuses. So the 2 becomes minus 2, x minus 1. Since I asked you to go ahead and put this in slope-intercept, we're going to need to do some distribution. Yes, there's fractions. Yes, this one's a little ugly. So this is another problem that if you were supposed to graph, this would be a lot easier to use than slope-intercept form. Okay. So go ahead and distribute the 5/3. And this is what you're going to get on the next line. I've got that 3 on the bottom. It's okay, just leave it. We know the next step is to take this 2 and we've got to add it to the other side. Okay. So now you get to this point, it's like, okay, what do? I have a whole number and I have a fraction. Well, don't forget, you can turn whole numbers into fractions. If I turn 2 into a fraction so that I have a common denominator, that's going to put a 3 on the bottom. That's going to give me 6/3. Okay, so I'm making it into something that I can add. So we're pulling in all your algebra skills here. Now this I can easily add together. So I'm going to get the 5/3 times x plus a 1/3, because 6 minus 5 or minus 5 plus 6 is going to give me that 1/3. You may need to pause the video for a second to make sure you get all of this written down. So you notice my process didn't change from yesterday. The same way I changed the equation from point slope to slope intercept was the exact same. The only thing was different was that I have to get my slope from another equation. Okay. All right, let's try another one. I want to write the equation of the line that is parallel to the given equation, which is in slope-intercept form. I want this one to go through the point 8, 4. So what you need to do is look at the equation that's given. Notice what the slope is. Hopefully you can see that the slope is negative 1/4. So let's specify that out to the side. And now again, I'm going to plug it into y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. And we're going to plug it into that equation. Sorry, it looks like a kindergartner just wrote that. And then we're going to plug it in. So you're going to take that negative 1/4. It stays with your m. Take your new point, 8, 4. I'm going to give you a second here to go ahead and try to write that without me. And hopefully your equation looks something like this. So just like the last one, I want to distribute that negative 1/4. So I've got a negative 1/4 x, but we need to take negative 1/4 times negative 8. So a negative times a negative is going to turn it into a positive. But now think, what is a fourth of 8? Hopefully you're going to say that that is 2. It's a little bit easier than the last one because now I can add 4 to the other side. And we get 6. Okay. So pay attention tonight on your homework problems to whether or not they're asking you to put things in point slope form or slope intercept form. Okay. These are really the main 2 solving problems I have for you because a lot of it's the exact same as what we did yesterday. So I didn't think you needed a ton of examples to go through. Okay. The one new thing you're going to be doing tonight is going to be trying to decide if lines are parallel or decide if they're just intersecting. Okay? If lines aren't parallel, they just cross. We don't have skew lines when we are talking about things on a coordinate plane because it's not 3-dimensional. Skew lines only happen in 3D. So we're either going to have lines that cross or don't cross. So I'm going to give you some things like this, and say, all right, can you tell me if these are parallel or intersecting? So your job is to just look at the slopes and decide if the slopes match. Well, looking at the first equation, I see I have a slope of 3. Looking at the second equation, I see I have a slope of -3. Now, on every problem that you have like this, I want you to show me what the slope is. So I've got that on this next slope, that it is m equals 3 and m equals -3. Don't just leave me guessing of what you thought the slope was. Make sure you list this on every problem where you're supposed to be comparing, okay? So since I've got 3 and -3, the slopes do not match. They're not opposite reciprocals. That's something we're going to talk about tomorrow, so you don't have to write that down today. I just kind of threw that in there. That's something that hopefully sounds a little bit familiar with perpendicular. But the slopes do not match, so we just say that they're neither, or we can say that they're intersecting. So there's nothing wrong with these lines. They just intersect. Now, it would be nice if I gave every problem to you nice and solved out in slope-intercept form. But what if I give you a problem like this, where they're not nice and solved for you? Okay. Well, on this right one, I can see that the slope is -1/4 because it's in, it is in the right, I can't talk, because it is in point slope form. Okay. Now, on the left one, I got nothing. So you need to put it in slope intercept form. Okay, so you're going to have to do some reconfiguring. So I'm going to go ahead and then solve for y. So first thing I want to do is move that 4x to the other side. And notice I put it at the front because I want to keep these in slope intercept form. Now divide both pieces by 2. And I get y equals 2x plus 8. Okay. So my slope in this case is going to be 2. Okay. Now, we already talked about the slope on the other one. I am going to tell you there is a typo on here, and I didn't catch it until I started recording, so we're just going to change this. This should be a negative, and this should be a 1/4. Okay, so I apologize for the typo. And so we already know the slope. You don't do any reconfiguring, but the slope is going to be -1/4. Okay, so since those don't match, we just say that they are, sorry, ignore that 1/2 there, my typo. We can just say that they're intersecting, okay? Or neither, okay? That may be an option on your homework on a couple problems as well. Okay, so hopefully that part's not too bad. Again, I apologize for that. The last thing we want to look at is graphs, okay? When you're looking at a graph, do not just try to eyeball it. Some things that look like they're parallel may not actually be. They may just be really, really close together and intersect somewhere off the graph that you can't see. So you always want to take the slope either way. Okay? Now, you have a couple options. You can count, rise, over, run, and just get it that way, or you can do the slope formula. Just for practice for some of you, I'm going to go ahead and do the slope formula on here just one more time, and just so we can check it out. Okay. So I looked at the first time and I found the slope of BC using the points above. I put B and C as dots to help make it a little easier. Now the notation I use there is one way to say I'm doing this particular line. Since I've got 2 lines, just saying M can be confusing as to which line I'm talking about. So I put in parentheses the line I'm taking the slope of. Okay? So it's the y minus the y over the x minus the x. So I have 4 over 2. Remember, always reduce your slope. And we get 2. Okay? Do the same thing for the slope of DE. I'm going to take the 4 minus a minus. And again, if you can go ahead and think of that as plus 6, great. You're welcome to do that. And 3 plus 2 on the bottom is totally fine as well. You do not have to write in then minus a minus. I said that's just for those of you who are still trying to get that formula down. Okay? And that's going to reduce to 10 over 5 because 4 minus 6 is 10. 3 plus 2 is 5. Reduce it because right now it doesn't look equal, but if I reduce it, my answer becomes 2. So now I can see that these two lines are actually parallel. They have the same slope. Okay. Now remember, if you have a graph and you have a picture given to you, it is totally okay to do rise over run. Make sure you label which line you are finding the slope of, just like I did here. But you do not have to do the slope formula if a graph is given. Okay? All right, that's it. Your homework for tonight is a worksheet. It's not super long, so you will probably finish it here in class. It will be due tomorrow, but I will be around so we can do some questions. If you are really stuck on stuff, remember there's advisory tomorrow. I know it's Fridays and it's fun day, but I do have some open spots if you need to pop in for some questions in the morning. All right, have a great day, guys.